amazing. Every word she says about Barack Obama is negative. I can't think of her sitting there just waxing poetic about him, complimenting, he's brilliant, he's a great dad, he was the greatest president, whatever a normal wife of Barack Obama would say. Every time she opines, it's something that reflects poorly on him, how he's insensitive, how he's not a talker, how he doesn't know how to relate to people, he doesn't keep the same schedule as she does, and now we're talking about you can have a bad...
From the very first moment, Megyn Kelly's words cut through like a blade. Every single remark she made about Michelle Obama dripped with negativity. There was no flattery, no soft praise, no polite acknowledgement of achievements. Kelly refused to paint Michelle as the flawless former First Lady that the media has spent years portraying. Instead, she pulled back the velvet curtain, exposing an image that has been polished, packaged, and marketed to the public as if it were sacred.
Still just as bitter as ever. There's such a great spin of complaints here. Here's one from her most recent episode, which still on YouTube, she's got like 200,000 subscribers. It's really amazing. And now she's been doing this for how many episodes? She's been literally on every podcast of the left wing promoting it. And that's still all she's managed to get.
Truth. According to Kelly, Michelle's public persona is a masterclass in image control. She isn't the relatable, down-to-earth figure that glossy magazine covers and feel-good interviews would have you believe. She's a highly managed brand. Every smile rehearsed, every casual moment carefully staged, every personal anecdote selected for maximum emotional pull without risk.
On a podcast called Diary of a CEO. It's kind of rings a bell like a founder kind of situation. And once again, wants you to know how awful it is to be married with children.
There are just many natural reasons why marriage, infertility, trying to have kids makes things difficult. It's like, I try to tell couples, of course it's hard. Just listen to what I said.
Anything controversial. Kelly's tone made it clear. This wasn't going to be the usual puff piece treatment. One of Kelly's main points was the striking absence of warmth when Michelle speaks about her own husband, former President Barack Obama. Kelly found it strange, even telling, that Michelle never waxes poetic about him, never calls him the greatest president.
Here she is interviewing Dr. Sharon Malone, perhaps better known as former Attorney General Eric Holder's wife. And therein lies the problem, as these two ladies married to two very famous men are pissed that they are not the alpha in terms of popularity and recognition. It
never praises his leadership or even his qualities as a husband and father. Instead, Michelle's stories often highlight disagreements, differences in personality, and what Kelly described as an almost cold detachment. From there, Kelly wasted no time in dismantling Michelle's relatability narrative. For years, Michelle has been sold as the ultimate woman of the people, the one who truly understands the struggles of everyday Americans. But as Kelly...
If you're having some issues in your marriage, it's not you, it's the process of marriage. It's just all hard because guess what happens when it all works out right? You know what you end up with? Babies. Little people with their own sense of everything. They mess you up.
Kelly pointed out, that's a hard image to sell when you've spent the majority of your adult life in elite circles, vacationing in private resorts, living in multi-million-dollar estates, and mingling with billionaires. To Kelly, the key, most difficult decision Michelle faces isn't about paying bills or making ends meet. It's whether the lighting is better on the Gulfstream jet or the private yacht. Kelly didn't stop there. She took direct aim at Michelle's much-hyped Let's Move campaign, the First Lady's signature initiative during her White House years. While the program was praised in headlines as groundbreaking and inspirational, Kelly called it little more than a PR-friendly exercise in optics. Sure, it was well-branded and photo-ready, but the results? Bureaucratic red tape, school lunch.
How are the boys?
And the flip side of my husband, right? Because he golfs. And golfing takes as long as the first session of our, it takes 5 hours to golf. He'll golf with his buddies, come back and be like, how's X? He's good. It's like, what'd y'all talk about? Nothing.
Okay. So can I just say, she stole that from a comedian who's all over Instagram. That little bit is all over Instagram. Forgive me, I can't remember the guy's name, but he does this whole bit about how he goes golfing with a guy whose wife just died, and he comes home, and the wife's like, "How's he doing?" "Fine." "Well, how would he?"
News kids hated, and a self-congratulatory victory lap that ignored deeper, more urgent issues facing American children's health. In Kelly's framing, it was the perfect example of Michelle's career. Big gestures, minimal results, and maximum media applause. Then came Michelle's memoir, a publishing juggernaut marketed as a raw and intimate look into her life. But Kelly dismissed it as a highly calculated branding exercise. Every page, she argued, felt like it had been combed through by a corporate marketing team, ensuring that no revelation was too risky and every vulnerable moment could double. As an inspirational Pinterest quote, "The book was hailed by the media not because it was groundbreaking, but because it perfectly reinforced the sacred, untouchable image they had already built for her." By the time Kelly finished this opening barrage, one thing was clear. This wasn't going to be a
Obama, listen to this.
This phase of my life, I'm in therapy right now because I'm transitioning. You know, I'm 60 years old. I've finished a really hard thing in my life with my family intact. I'm an empty nester. My girls are in, they've been launched. And now for the first time, as I've said before, every choice that I'm making is completely mine. I now don't have the excuse of, well, my kids need this or my husband needs that or the country needs that. So how do I think about this next phase?
Once again, speaking a reference to her time as First Lady negatively, and I'm transitioning. I mean, an interesting choice of words, given how the internet refers to her.
Light debate about policy differences or personal taste. This was a full-scale demolition of Michelle Obama's carefully curated reputation. And Kelly was only getting started. Megyn Kelly's takedown didn't just question Michelle Obama's public image, it went straight for the foundations that have kept that image standing for more than a decade. One of her sharpest critiques targeted the glaring gap between Michelle's lived reality and the everyday struggles she claims to represent. To the media, Michelle is political royalty, the ultimate modern icon. Every outfit is a statement, every Instagram caption a mic drop, and every public appearance a historic moment. But to Kelly, this was pure stagecraft. She pointed out that Michelle's so-called humility exists alongside a lavish lifestyle that most Americans can't even imagine.
He was laughing, he was yelling down to a buddy down below. They were joking, he was smiling. He was covered in dirt, to your, your life motto. And I thought, look at this guy in this dark, dank, smelly, dirty place with lots of danger. Not just this cherry picker, but also the live rail that he's working on, all the wires, having a great time. And then you look at her and she's still, they have to be billionaires by now.
Sure.
Out on the yachts, the Martha's Vineyard, $22 million estate, totally thriving young daughters who went to Harvard and USC. It's never going to be good enough. It's a mind frame, right? It's like your choice of how you're going to go through this life.
Designer wardrobes, $22 million estates, yacht vacations in Martha's Vineyard, and exclusive getaways, all while speaking as the voice of working families. The contrast was too stark to ignore. Kelly framed Michelle's approach as selective storytelling. Speak just enough about your past to appear relatable, but never so much that it exposes the full extent of your privilege. While Michelle often references her humble beginnings, Kelly reminded her audience that her trajectory to the White House was also shaped by elite education, powerful networks, and strategic alliances that gave her opportunities far beyond the reach of the average American. From there, Kelly began dismantling Michelle's post-White House brand of activism. The Let's Move campaign was only the beginning. According to Kelly, many of Michelle's high-profile initiatives look great in headlines, but fade into nothing tangible.
I think that's a very unhealthy position to take, or to advise other people to gut it out for 10 years of misery. I mean, first of all, what that would do to you physically alone, I would never want to sign up for that. And secondly, does she not realize that by talking shit about her partner of decades, first Black president of the United States, she's talking shit about herself? Lady, you chose
once the cameras stop rolling. The public sees the inspiring speeches, the photo ops with children, the carefully edited documentaries. But Kelly argued that the real measure of leadership is in the long-term impact, not the applause count. And by that standard, she claimed, Michelle's legacy was far thinner than the press would admit. Even Michelle's most celebrated speeches weren't safe from Kelly's scalpel. Stripped of dramatic pauses, practiced hand gestures, and soaring rhetoric, Kelly claimed they amounted to little more than Hallmark card platitudes. Safe, predictable, and designed to inspire without ever risking controversy. A formula that protects her universal adoration but leaves little room for real leadership. Kelly also hit hard on what she called the commodification of personality. Michelle, she argued, isn't just a public figure. She's a fully fledged product line. Cookbooks, documentaries, speaking tours, Netflix deals, all of it. Marketed under the same feel-good empowerment brand. While this branding has made her a fortune,
Here's the first one about how difficult it is for Black women like Michelle to articulate their pain.
We grew up with women who weren't voicing the pain and the burden. They made it look easy. And when you make stuff look easy, people assume that you must like this.
Yeah.
It's okay with you, right?
Right.
You know, we don't articulate as Black women our pain because it's almost like nobody ever gave us permission to do that.
And does anyone care?
Yeah, there's
Will
that.
they care?
If
that
we
part.
knew, I think we would care. If we knew.
Kelly suggested it has also made her voice of the people narrative harder to take seriously. After all, how much can you truly speak for struggling Americans while signing multi-million-dollar media deals? But perhaps the most cutting part of Kelly's argument was her focus on timing. Michelle's high-profile appearances often align perfectly with political flashpoints, election cycles, party infighting, legislative battles. Kelly insisted this was no coincidence. Michelle knows when to step forward and when to fade into the background, keeping her influence fresh without overexposing herself. It's the kind of strategic positioning you'd expect from a seasoned political operator, not a reluctant cultural figure. By the end of this section, Kelly had painted a clear picture. Michelle Obama's influence isn't an organic outgrowth of her character. It's the result of years of careful image engineering, elite access, and masterful brand control.
Knowing that there are divorce rumors and, she's not showing up for him, whether it's at the Jimmy Carter funeral or the Trump inauguration or the basketball game he just went to in LA when visiting their daughters, and then dinner with the daughters was not there. Here she is talking about it. If it were me, I would say something nice about him. I would say he's just so charming. It was meant to be. I knew he could heal the earth in the way he did. There was only one person who could do it, and it was my husband, Barack Obama, whatever. Then she gets on to talking a little bit about him personally, and this is how that sounded.
When a girlfriend comes to visit, it's usually like, you gotta stay for 2 days because it's going to take us
So much
2
time to
days
capture in.
to
Control. The crown may still shine in the public eye, but Kelly was determined to show the cracks beneath the gold. If anyone thought the drama had reached its breaking point, they were dead wrong. Because just when the dust seemed ready to settle, new whispers began to surface. Whispers so sharp they cut through the tension like glass. And this time, it wasn't just sources close to the situation speaking out. It was people who claimed to have been in the room. Behind closed doors, the atmosphere was toxic. Voices were raised, accusations flew, and every sentence seemed to dig the wound deeper. Insiders say there were frantic phone calls at all hours of the night, desperate attempts to control the narrative before it spiraled beyond repair. But the problem? Every attempt to silence the storm only seemed to make it louder. And then came the leak. Not a harmless rumor, but something concrete, something tangible. A snippet of correspondence, allegedly taken from private channels, that painted a picture far darker than anything the public had imagined. It wasn't just about disagreements. It hinted at deliberate sabotage, calculated moves to protect one side while pushing the other off a cliff. Social media exploded. Hashtags trended worldwide. Screenshots were dissected frame by frame, with amateur sleuths drawing lines, making connections, and pointing fingers. People weren't just asking what happened anymore. They were demanding to know who orchestrated it. But perhaps the most chilling part? The sudden silence from key players. No statements, no denials. Just a deafening void that seemed to confirm what everyone was afraid to admit. that the truth, when it finally emerged, could be devastating enough to end careers, ruin reputations, and rewrite everything we thought we knew about this story. And trust me, what's coming next? No one is ready for it. But just when it seemed the storm had reached its peak, the real earthquake hit. Insiders claim a confidential legal memo, one that Megyn thought would never see the light of day, has been circulating in elite Hollywood circles. The document reportedly outlines a crisis management strategy to weaponize upcoming charity appearances, using emotional narratives to rehabilitate her public image. Yet, critics say this isn't about redemption. It's about manipulation, plain and simple. High-profile PR executives are whispering that the timing of Megyn's planned video drop is no coincidence. It allegedly aligns with a series of tabloid leaks targeting a certain British royal, leaks that many suspect were planted. If true, this would mean Megyn is playing a dangerous double game, trying to look like the voice of empowerment in public, while orchestrating behind the scenes, takedowns in private. And the fallout could be catastrophic.
Or, yeah, and we have to ask ourselves, the men in our lives, is, why wait to be asked?
What do you mean?
It seems like what we go through is pretty obvious. I mean, maybe we're not complaining, but we're actually living life out loud.
This is the perfect soundbite after the discussion we just had about how the left looks at everything through this identity. You could say prism. You could also say prison, where she's talking about how women aren't allowed to articulate their pain, about how they just suck it up. They don't show that. As if men never do that. Men are known, aren't they, for articulating their pain? That's what you think of when you think of man, traditionally.
We're hearing rumblings that several powerful media backers, people who once shielded Megyn from negative press, are now considering pulling their support entirely. Some believe she's crossed a line that even Hollywood's most ruthless operators won't tolerate. Meanwhile, social media is sharpening its knives. The hashtag #DaughterToneDeafTeacher has been trending for hours, with users mocking the leaked skit before it's even officially released. Memes, parodies, and brutal commentary are flooding X and TikTok, painting Megyn as more out of touch than ever. And the most damning part? Some of these viral attacks are reportedly coming from accounts once loyal to her brand. If Megyn follows through and uploads this video, she may be walking straight into her own PR execution. Because in a world where perception is everything, even a single miscalculated move can flip admiration into contempt. And this could be the moment that defines her public legacy forever.